Now, church, none of us can come to a place where we can stop hungering for God and His righteousness. None of us can. It's a lifelong pursuit. None of us can come to a place and say, hey, I had enough. I had enough of God. I had enough of His word. I had enough of prayers. Let me pause. Let me stop. No, none of us can do that. It's a lifelong pursuit. Apostle Paul was a special vessel, chosen vessel by the Lord. But still he longed to know Christ intimately. In Philippians 3:10 he says, that I may know Him. The question is, doesn't Paul know Jesus? He knows Jesus. But he wants to know Jesus more and more and more. He says that I may know Him and the power of His resurrection. How amazing. Paul kept on pressing toward the goal of knowing Jesus and becoming like Jesus. Selwyn Hughes in his devotional wrote this about Paul's spiritual progress. He says that Paul's spiritual progress may be measured by the fact that in 1 Corinthians 15:9, 1 Corinthians was written around 55 AD. There he says, I am the least of the apostles. Later in 61 AD, he wrote to Ephesians in 61 AD, in Ephesians 3:8, he says that he is less than the least, not of the apostles, but he says, I am less than the least of all God's people. He was now comparing, earlier he was comparing himself to apostles. Now he says, I am less than the least of all of the people of God. Still later in 62 AD, when he was writing to Timothy, 1 Timothy chapter 1 verse 15, this is what he writes. He says that Jesus Christ came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am the worst. Can you see the progress? You know, the more we grow in the Lord, the more we are aware of our spiritual bankruptcy, and the more we acknowledge our sin, and the more we long for God. Hallelujah. Church, what is your assessment of yourself? Apostle Paul thinks that he is the chief of sinners, the worst of sinners. What is your assessment of yourself? Listen to this. If we congratulate ourselves on our goodness, God cannot congratulate us. God cannot favor us. We must never become complacent in our relationship with God.